Welcome to Let's Talk Petty. We are not petty, but we sure love talking about it.
Yes, we do. I'm Andrew.
I'm Kate. I'm telling the story now.
You can have the whole story to yourself. I'm going to listen now.
Good. I'm glad you're going to listen now. You want to hear my title?
I don't know anything about it except partly about who it's about, and that's it.
Yes. You do know who it's about. Dolly Parton versus Porter Wagoner.
Right. That's all I know.
Yes.
So what's your title? You hyped it up.
That's my title. Dolly Parton versus Porter Wagoner.
Are you kidding?
Nope.
I can't say that you worked really hard on that. If you did, that's pretty bad.
It took me hours to come up with this.
I will give you an excuse, though, because you're just getting over the cove.
We jinxed me by saying when I had that other cold.
A couple episodes back, you said you didn't have it.
Yeah, and then I got it. I got it really bad.
But you're better now, mostly. You're finally not testing positive.
Yep, not positive, but I have a sinus infection now that I'm fighting off. It's great. I missed, a week and a half of work?
Mm-hmm.
Which was not great. Because we don't have COVID pay. Woo!
Everyone thinks COVID's just a big vacation when you get it and you get to stay home, but looking at you, you definitely didn't have a vacation.
I did not.
You were bored out of your mind and felt terrible.
I did feel terrible, and it was very boring because I couldn't focus or concentrate on anything. I could just lay there, and then I was so tired. It was awful. I hated it.
Which means you probably put in all sorts of extra time and work on this episode to make it amazing.
No. I couldn't focus on anything. I was pretty much all done with this, though, so I didn't have to really do much.
All I'll say is I'm glad we had episodes in the bank because last couple weeks, we probably wouldn't have had episodes out.
No. Yeah, I couldn't have done anything because I not only went back to sounding like a man because my throat was so sore and I was so congested, but then I couldn't even sit up and do normal stuff for 20 minutes, and I was like, I gotta go take a nap. It was not great.
But you're mostly over it, and we can record again.
Yes.
Which we're both happy about.
Yes, we are.
Dust off our recording equipment.
It has been sad.
Just been sitting there. Use me.
We have such a good schedule, and then now it's blown out of proportion. Blown out of proportion. Not really. You want to see my picture of them?
I see the picture of them. Porter and Dolly.
Porter and Dolly. So what do you know about, I'm going to go with Dolly Parton first. What do you know about Dolly Parton?
I know she came up with Dollywood. And she's come up with a lot. She's obviously a musician. Came up with a lot of very famous songs. And let's see, she's big into philanthropy right now, helping people out. I know that. Over
She's
the last
always
couple
been.
Of years.
She's always been big on.
I've only known about it the last couple of years.
Oh yeah, because she did the whole when that big fire happened in Gatlinburg.
Well, that's because that's where Dollywood is.
It is, but she did a ton of stuff for a lot of people there. But she's always been that way. She's always been super generous. So.
Fun fact: I've been there before.
To Dollywood?
I have.
When?
Way back when we'd go visit my grandparents. We went there one time. It was a big deal for him to take me there.
Wait, I vaguely remember you telling me something about it, but
I don't remember anything about the place at all since I don't do rides or anything. But
oh yeah,
I remember we went there. That's it.
I have always wanted to go there because I love roller coasters.
Obviously, it wasn't memorable because I don't remember a thing about it.
Well, how old were you?
Had to have been a teenager. I don't know.
You don't remember a lot of stuff though from when you were a kid and a teenager, so yeah. I guess that's not really saying that much. All right, well, do you even know who Porter Wagoner is or anything about him?
No. Something to do with her musical career, I'm guessing.
That's a good guess.
Did he partner up or sing with her? Or?
Well, you're going to find all about.
We always find out. We're always going to talk about
Porter Wagoner. Yeah. So this is actually another one that Drunk History covered briefly years ago. So you might have seen the episode. And not, it just hasn't registered yet.
Probably. I know I've seen them all. A few of them I don't remember. A few I remember well.
Yeah. This one it's a funny one, but I don't think that you would have like been like, oh my gosh, I remember that from Drunk History. And then I heard about this when I was a kid, the feud between the two of them, when the movie The Bodyguard came out. Do you remember that movie?
I remember. I've never seen it.
You've never seen The Bodyguard? I don't know why I'm always surprised at movies you have not seen.
Every time you're like, you've never seen
I know.
that?
I don't know why.
You should be surprised when I say I've seen a movie.
What do you... Okay, so it came out in 1992.
I remember there was a song that was really popular.
Really popular. And we're going to talk about that song.
Really?
Yes.
Are we going to talk about Kevin Costner?
We are not going to talk... Well, now we are because we're talking about The Bodyguard. But I had seen that movie when I was a kid. And that movie, the song in it is amazing. The movie's actually not a bad movie. But the song is just the one... The thing I think that people remember the most from The Bodyguard is the song. And so I was telling my dad how amazing that song is. And he was like, well, do you know where it came from? And I was like, I have no idea. And then he told me this whole story and it blew me away. When I was a kid, it blew me away. And now, all these years later, now I'm doing a podcast.
No, you're going to blow me away with the story.
Well, I don't know if I'll blow you away, but I think you'll like it. So I do have a little bit of background for each of them because not everybody knows Dolly Parton, which I don't know why. Everyone should know about Dolly Parton.
People don't know who Dolly Parton is.
There are some people that don't know who Dolly Parton is.
I also remember, just popped into my head, back in the 80s when the National Enquirer was a big deal. And it seemed like she was always on the cover of that thing. There was controversy about how big her boobs were. And
always. Were they real? Were they not?
That was like the Bat Boy and her were like alternating weeks on National Enquirer.
Who?
Bat Boy, Batman, the bat person, the guy that had a face of a bat.
How do you remember that? But you don't remember going to Dollywood.
Because that guy has a memorable looking face.
Oh my God.
Everyone at Dollywood just looked like normal people.
So if Bat Boy had been at Dollywood, you would have been like, best trip ever.
If I had seen Bat Boy at Dollywood, I would remember that trip 100%.
What if you had seen Dolly Parton?
I'd have been like, oh, yeah, I remember I went to Dollywood and I saw Dolly Parton there.
But you wouldn't have been as excited if you had seen Bat Boy.
I would have been more excited.
To see Dolly Parton?
No, Bat Boy.
To see Bat Boy. Okay, that's what I thought.
I really don't remember. It's some weird name like that, Bat Boy something.
I don't remember anything about it, so... That's hilarious that you remember that, but not stinking Dollywood.
I remember what I remember.
I guess so. All right, so Dolly Parton was born on January 19th, 1946, and was the fourth of 12 children, which is craziness. Who has time to have that many kids? So not only did they have 12 kids, but they lived in a one-bedroom house on Locust Ridge in Tennessee. I could not imagine that.
Bedroom house with 12 kids.
One bedroom house. And the joke in the one of the books that I read was, how did your parents have time to have 12 kids when you live in a one bedroom house? Did y'all not know what's going on? And she's just like, oh, I guess we didn't. I was like, oh, God. What a question to ask. But
things you don't want to think about.
Yeah. So she was musical from a young age, making her debut on the Grand Ole Opry.
Grand Ole Opry.
That's what I said. Grand Ole Opry.
I thought you said old.
No, not old. Ole. It was, and obviously you know what that is then. I didn't really know. It's one of country music's most famous country platforms in the world. I did not know that.
Fun fact, I've stayed at the hotel attached to the Grand Ole Opry.
I can't believe that you remember that.
Well, that was from one of my last couple jobs that I had when I went away for a trip and we were staying there.
I see. That's why. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, aren't you fancy? Dollywood and Grand Ole Opry.
I've got a lot of connections to this episode.
You really do. All right.
You'll probably start talking about me somewhere in here.
Fun fact, Andrew stayed here. Definitely. It's in my notes. So in 1964, she took a bus to Nashville to become a country music star. She had some success with songs like Dumb Blonde. Have you ever heard of that song? Dumb Blonde?
Nope.
Me either. I listened to it. It's a catchy tune. I liked it. So she got her big break when she joined the Porter Wagoner show. So this is where Porter Wagoner comes in to her life. Dolly Parton is an absolutely incredible songwriter, along with being a very compassionate and caring person, which we've already talked about.
Mm-hmm.
To her, the Porter Wagoner show was a way for her to get her name established, but definitely not where she intended to stay long term. So that was her goals.
So she was using that as a jumping board to what she wanted to do next.
Absolutely.
Springboard. Got it.
So Porter Wagoner, he was born on August 12th, 1927, and he died on October 28th, 2007.
How many bedrooms did his house have?
It didn't say. Or if it did, it was not significant enough for me to remember. That hers was significant.
Oh, you remember how many bedrooms her house had, but you don't
do.
remember how many his house had.
For sure.
Okay.
So he was known for his flashy nudie and Manuel suits and blonde pompadour. So at first I was like, nudie and Manuel. And so I had to look it up, but those are just the names of the designers of the suits that he would wear. They had...
I think I have one of those in my closet.
Oh, you definitely do. That's what I catch you wearing, but probably about once a month.
Just trying them on, and you're like, and you walk in, you're like, "Are you trying your suits on again?" And I'm like, "Yes."
Well, these suits have lots of rhinestones. I mean, if you ever look at the pictures of them, as soon as I saw them, I was like, okay, he secretly invented the bedazzler. I think he made it. One of his suits weighed 40 pounds. It was bedazzled.
All right, so we backpack, and our backpacks at 35 pounds are pretty heavy.
Yeah.
So his whole suit weighed 40 pounds.
40 pounds. That's why I was like,
and it's a suit which is probably going to make him warm.
Oh,
How do you even wear that?
He had to have been like, he was tall and skinny.
I can imagine
That's why he was skinny. He was constantly
he should
sweating.
have been a lot shorter, apparently, because or could have been even taller, but those rhinestone suits probably held him down from growing.
No. He started wearing them when he was older, not when he was a kid.
What would you do if you went to school and there was a kid that wore a rhinestone suit every day, a different one? He had like 5 different ones.
I'd instantly want to be his friend. I'd be like, hi, I'm hanging out with you. I like your suits. Is that a nudie or a Manuel is what I would ask him.
Okay.
That would be my question.
I don't know what I would do. I'd probably look at him quite often.
You'd be entertained.
I guess you'd want to be his friend.
How would you not want to be his friend?
I think I'd be friends with him long enough just to ask him and find out why he wears the suits and where he gets them from. And then I'd be like, all right, we're done.
Oh, so you would just use him for the information and then bail. Okay. Well.
It would have come in handy on our podcast if I had done it when I was younger.
Or if you'd known someone who was doing that. But alas, you did not. It's too bad. All right. So Porter, he had early success in the 1950s, and he did a lot with the Grand Ole Opry. He ended up with his own show, like I said, the Porter Wagoner Show. That show was the most popular country show of the 60s, growing from 18 stations in 1961 to over 100 stations in the early 70s. So his show being that popular, I can't believe I never heard of it, because in his biography, it talks about people that he performed with that were also on Hee Haw. Do you remember Hee Haw?
I do.
So I know Hee Haw. I don't know how I never ever heard of this. I guess my mom never rushed us home to watch the Porter Wagoner Show, so that's probably why. But there was a lot of...
She rushed you home to watch Hee Haw?
Yes, we used to have to rush home so that she would not miss Hee Haw.
Hee Haw.
Hee Haw.
Hee Haw.
Hee Haw. And I remember as a kid watching it going, this is the dumbest show. Why did we have to rush home for this? She loved it.
Was Dolly Parton ever on Hee Haw?
I don't know. That's a good question. I wouldn't be surprised.
You'll have to ask your mom. I'm sure she knows.
I don't know if she really remembers. Because I remember making fun of her one time about how we had to rush home to watch Hee Haw. And she's like, I rushed you home to watch Hee Haw? I'm like, oh my God, you don't even remember this?
You're probably one of the few kids whose parents ran them home to watch Hee Haw.
Hey, she liked what
There's
she liked.
probably not many people that can make that claim.
My mom did all sorts of things. She bought me Bon Jovi underwear. She rushed me home to watch Hee Haw. She also used to let us stay up all hours playing video games trying to beat different levels of video games. So no complaints with that.
How are you a functioning adult?
Hey, it's how I have my keen sense of humor.
Mm-hmm.
And
All those episodes of Hee-Haw.
It's all coming full circle. Anyway, love you, Mom. All right, so he was obviously successful. There's no denying that. But when Dolly Parton came on, she definitely helped to boost his whole show and him as a person, too. So she was very naturally musical, like I said, and she was talented at writing songs. So the two of them complemented each other well. Their singing voices also meshed well, making the two a very popular country music duo. It seems a huge part of their draw for people was how down-to-earth both of the stars seemed to be when they were together. Sometimes I think that when two people who just mesh very, very well get together, they kind of draw the other person out. Mm-hmm. You know, kind of like how I draw the best out in you. I don't know if I can say vice versa. No, I'm just kidding. Your face right now.
I knew that's where you were going as soon as you started your line. As soon as you started.
I couldn't help myself. Anyway, we just draw out the best in each other, and that's kind of what they did. She drew out.
So you're comparing us to Porter Wagoner and Dolly Parton.
He is a little bit on the grumpy side.
I'm not grumpy. And second of all, when are we going to be on the Grand Ole Opry?
I got to talk to Dolly about that.
Apparently.
She'll get us right on there. So they're a good team. Dolly growing up poor, I'm going to say, though, and being one of the oldest of 12, I think it made her really mature, but it also let her put up with a lot from people. But everyone has their limits, even someone as wonderful as Dolly Parton.
I refuse to believe that.
It's true. So the difference with Dolly from other stories that we have told each other is that Dolly is not petty.
Then why are we even talking about it?
Oh, you're going to see. This is a great story.
Okay.
So she says things how they are, and she doesn't hide what she is feeling, which makes it even weirder that someone like Porter Wagoner is going to choose to be petty with her, of all people. It blows my mind. Like, reading all of the stuff that I read, I was just like, what is he thinking and doing? It's just crazy. So the two of them ended up working together for 7 years, from 1967 to 1974. And when Dolly was first on his show, everyone started asking where Norma Jean was, because that was the female singer that was on the show before her. And when Dolly came on, she was very different from Norma Jean. So she actually was getting booed, and nobody wanted her on the stage. She ended up, their first show, she was in tears.
Marilyn Monroe?
What?
Norma Jean.
No, not Marilyn Monroe.
Okay.
No, I know. At first I was like, Norma Jean, but no, she was not a country singer on Porter Wagoner show. I hate to break that to you. Although I am impressed that you know that was Marilyn Monroe's real name.
Not bad for a grumpy person.
You're not grumpy. I was just pecking on you, honey bunny. All right. So during this transition, Porter is super supportive to Dolly. And what he decided was he was going to have them sing duets together so that everybody was going to get used to her being on the show. And their voices blended so well, it actually worked. It paid off. And so pretty soon everybody was like, Norma Jean who? And they loved Dolly Parton. So it all worked out for the two of them being on the show.
Do we know whatever happened to Norma Jean?
She actually went off and she had, she wanted to get married. Well, she wanted to have a baby. I think she was already married, and she wanted to have a baby and start a family. You'll see through my story that the regimen that he had them on was very hectic, and it was a lot of traveling. So she didn't want to do that anymore. So she went off and she had a baby and was like, see you later. I want to actually have a life. So we're going to actually talk about two articles right now. The first one is from an underground newspaper published by the Atlanta, Georgia Cooperative News Project. This magazine was out from 1968 to 1976. And Dolly was asked about working with Porter. So this is while they're together and they're traveling. And she acknowledged how much he had helped her out, and she truly appreciated all that he had done for her. However, being the very honest person Dolly is, she also talked about the challenges. The article that I'm talking about is from 1971, and it shows that there's cracks in the foundation of their partnership. If Porter had been paying attention, which he definitely was not, he may have seen and heard that Dolly was getting frustrated because she literally said to his face and others that she was getting frustrated. So that's why I'm saying she's not a petty person. Like, if she's frustrated, she's going to be like, hey, guess what? I'm really irritated right now. And then tell you exactly why she's irritated.
Well, he probably wasn't listening because he had all that weight of rhinestones on his body, and he was so focused on just staying upright, he probably didn't hear a word anybody told him.
He's too busy wiping the sweat off his brow. Oh,
trying to figure out where he can buy his next stash of rhinestones.
I gotta make a machine. Oh, I think I'm gonna call it the Bedazzler. I don't know. It cracks me up. He loved those suits. That was his thing.
I feel like there was a lot of people back then in that particular genre of people that loved rhinestone suits.
I feel like he was like kind of a trendsetter when it came to those suits. I think he really was like, I love these things. I wear them all the time.
So he wasn't doing it just for the show. He legit
I think
them.
He legit liked how those suits made him look. And his blonde pompadour. Yeah, I think he liked it. So going back to the article.
Is he dead?
Yeah, I told you his death date in the beginning. When he was born and when he died.
I was too busy thinking about rhinestone suits.
I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said nudie. I'm just kidding, honey.
Well, did he get buried in a rhinestone suit, I hope?
I don't know. It's a good question.
I hope he did.
I hope he did,
What
too.
else would you get buried in if that's what you were known for?
But he would have to pick who he liked more, the nudie or Manuel. And then one of them would be jealous.
It's a pretty easy solution.
Top is nudie, bottom is Manuel, or vice versa.
Vice versa.
That is a pretty easy solution. All right, so she tells this article, Porter is a great person to work with. Of course, it's not always smooth sailing because we're both so much alike and I have my own ideas about things, and it's just natural for him to think, I don't really know what's going on, and I feel like I do. And sometimes we have conflict over that and get into heated arguments, but that's just part of it. At least I'm smart enough to know he's the boss and he's been at it longer than me. But still, I have to present my ideas, and if I have to, I'll argue about them. But all around, it's great. A great relationship, and Porter is a great person because he's so much like me. We are so much alike in a lot of ways. We like the same things. So there's nothing petty.
She really went on a wild ride with that statement.
She does, and she has a ton
She was
of
up, down, up.
And she always talks in run-on sentences. I love it.
So she'd be one of those people that text you with no periods at all and just...
Oh, yeah.
So she pretty much could have invented voice to text and just rambling text messages.
Yes. Like I would love to see my mom's text messages to Dolly Parton and Dolly Parton back to my mom. Their text messages, we could start a whole Twitter account over them. Because
we've talked about that before, though, haven't we?
Yes, having a Twitter account with my mom's texts. They are so funny. Me and my brother were on the phone reading each other some of our text messages from our mom and trying to decipher what she was trying to say in it. It is the best. I love it. I wouldn't change it for the world. They're amazing.
I really want to start that Twitter account now, but after we never started our whole...
Well, we tried, but we couldn't. Remember, you looked it up and we couldn't get the names?
Well, the names, I tried, but it was just too much work.
Yeah,
but for one Twitter account, maybe I can do it. We'll see. Probably won't.
Now, if I could only talk Dolly Parton into texting my mom. Because the run-on sentences and the just using talk to text and
so you have no interest in talking to her at all, asking her any questions. You just want to call her up and be like, hey, thanks for returning my call. Can you just text my mom really quick?
Do me a favor. Start just a text conversation with my mom. Don't ever talk in person. On the phone, I mean, just text each other using talk to text, please. It'd be amazing. I would love it. But anyway.
Sounds like a winning idea.
It is a winning idea. I'd read it. So she's not a petty person. She just literally is like, this is how it is. This is what it's like between the two of us working. It's not always great, but I still love him. He's a great person.
She basically said it's not always great, but it's great.
Yeah. I mean, which is a lot of times true in situations like this when you're famous and you're on the road a lot and you're around each other all the time. So then in 2008, Dolly talked about Porter again in the Los Angeles Times. Here she is again, refreshingly honest, and says how it is. She says, I worked with Porter Wagoner on his show for 7 years. I don't mean this in a bad way, so don't play it up that way. But he was very much a male chauvinist pig. Certainly a male chauvinist. He was in charge and it was his show, but he was also very strong-willed. That's what we fought like crazy because I wouldn't put up with a bunch of stuff. Out of respect for him, I knew he was the boss and I would go along to where I felt this was reasonable for me. But once it passed points where it was like your way or my way, and this is just to control, to prove to you that I can do it, then I would just pitch a damn fit. I wouldn't care if it killed me. I would just say what I thought. So again, a lot in these sentences, but
it's a lot to take in.
It is a lot to take in. And some of the stuff that we're going to talk about where she, calls him a male chauvinist pig, you're going to see why she calls him this.
Well, he wears a rhinestone suit. I can pretty much automatically assume that's how he acts.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, not to stereotype. If you love wearing rhinestone suits, I'm sorry, but I'm going to say that 99% of people that wear rhinestone suits are probably chauvinist pigs.
Probably. I can't disagree after some of the stuff that I read.
Of course, we only know one person, and that's 100%, so we're going on the data that we have.
Well, don't you think? I think Elvis Presley loved those suits, too. He loved the rhinestone suits.
Yeah.
But he was also a very big male chauvinist pig, so 2 for 2.
It's not looking good for you rhinestone suit wearers.
That poor kid that we made up who wears rhinestone suits to school.
We turned him into
Little
a
does he
chauvinist
know,
pig.
he's now a chauvinist pig.
And all we wanted to do was be friends with him.
Poor kid.
Well, you did. I just wanted to use him for information.
Yeah, I still want to be his friend. All right, so as Porter's part, he really had showmanship, and he used TV in a time that a lot of famous people didn't. He and Dolly were on the road 200 days of the year, recording shows fast so they didn't look too rehearsed. So that's why Norma Jean was like, yeah, I'm not doing this anymore. On the road 200 days out of the year.
So they were recording TV shows 200 days a year?
They were on the road 200 days a year. So they were traveling around to different locations.
Recording.
So they're on the road for 200 days out of the year. And then wherever they would stop is where they would
So they just find a random TV studio and record it?
It was in front of like a live studio audience kind of thing.
Oh, so they were basically recording their concerts that they were playing.
Yeah, pretty much. But in studios with people watching. So he was using TV. His idea was, I'm going to allow people to see that not all country singers are hillbillies and didn't wear shoes.
That just wear rhinestone suits.
Yeah, well, to him, that shows that they actually had some poise and class. Yes. To him, that was that they showed poise and class. So that was his thinking behind his lovely rhinestone suits. Nothing says class like a pompadour and those suits.
That's literally what I was just about to say. Nothing shows class like rhinestone.
That's what he thought.
I think we have a title for our episode now, too.
Nothing shows class like rhinestone. So he would also often put Dolly's career ahead of his own, almost like a parent living vicariously through a child more talented than they are. He said, Dolly, I don't want to tie you up for life, but I want to have you with my show for enough years so I will have a building time to get you to a point where I can maybe make myself some money from you being a part of my show.
Wait, he's doing 200 shows a year and he's not making money?
He's making money, but he is saying what he's trying to do is he's trying to get to the point basically where Dolly is so famous that she's going to be able to support him. That was his thinking. Oh, we'll talk about it. We talk about this a lot. So all of your questions are going to be answered. I can. Your face and the hand gesture is telling me that you have many questions, which I also did. It was just like, ugh. So then after that, he proceeded to be very frank with Dolly and let her know he was going to make her a star that would allow him to reap the benefits. He sank so much of himself into her career that those around him started to try to warn him, saying, you're putting 90% of your time into Dolly's career and 10% into yours. Because if she makes it and leaves, where's that going to leave you? But he wouldn't listen.
Say is that's a bold move for someone wearing a rhinestone suit to say, I'm just here to use you.
That's literally what he is telling her. So can you start to see why Dolly was like, I'm not really a fan of that.
Why wouldn't she just run away? Or is that like you go back to what you were talking about where she just was able to put up with a lot because of how she grew up and her upbringing?
That's absolutely what it is. So Dolly agreed with him that, this whole thing is a great opportunity for her to become a big star. And she said, all right, you know what? I'm going to stay with you as long as you want me to. And then I think she thought about it. And then she was like, or let's say 5 years. So her plan is about 5 years. Like, I'll stay with you. I'll help you get your show like going good and continuing strong. But like, let's say about 5 years is what she wants to do. So they're this great duo. And Porter obviously saw her star quality and draw. But it seems he really wanted to always control that star. And that is, you can see from his statements that that's pretty much what he wants to do. So there is one thing that is very obvious in all the articles and books I read about Dolly. And that is there's no controlling her. So that's why it's even funnier that he thinks, I'm going to control this person.
But the funny, ironic part is that's literally what he wants to do is control her.
Yeah, he wants to control her.
But he's too blinded by his rhinestone lights to see the fact that she doesn't want that and will not accept it.
That's why every time she's shaking her head at him, like, I don't like this. All he sees is like that, that light glow around her. And to him, she's smiling and happy. And
if I had someone that was using me like that and always wore rhinestone suits, I would make sure that I always wore sunglasses and had light reflecting on them so that when they looked at me, they would just see the rhinestones reflecting back at them. Nonstop. I would make sure every single time they looked at me, I had sunglasses on. I was in a well-lit room, so it would just shine right back at them.
I cannot imagine how, you know how hot stage lights are. I cannot imagine how just sweaty and disgusting he was by the time they got done doing one of their shows. It
How
must
do you
have
even
been
clean
so
those
nasty.
suits?
I don't know. Dry cleaning, obviously, but his dry cleaning bill must have been
You can dry clean a
through
rhinestone
the roof.
suit?
How else are you going to clean that?
That's what I asked.
What, you're not going to hand wash it?
Spray it with Lysol, maybe.
We never washed them. All I did was spray them with Lysol. No wonder Dolly wanted to get out of there. She's like, listen, Porter, I can't take the smell anymore. It's too much.
That's what she was talking about in that statement before. It's good, but it has its bad parts. He sprays his suits with Lysol, but overall it's good.
Yeah. That's really what she was talking about. They just edited that part out. So he's working he's working close with her. They're, like she said, they're both very strong-willed. So I just think the only explanation for all of this, which, he said himself, is this is just money-driven. At this point, he's not caring about, Dolly as a person. I don't think that he cared about her as a person as much as she cared about him as a person at all. I think this is very one-sided on that part of it. So he often would critique how she wrote songs and how she needed to write the songs. And then he was also trying to control all aspects of not just the show, but also their singing career and how that went. So he's doing pretty much just every angle. He is trying to box her into what he feels like she needs to be. And there's a host for Nashville Now. His name was Ralph Emery, and he was actually a close friend of Porter's.
Thought you were going to say he was a close friend of yours.
Yeah, he's a super close friend of me.
Close friend of mine.
Yeah. Yeah, you know me and Nashville Now. Can't get enough of that show. I don't even know if it's still on. But he was super close to Porter, and he's quoted in Porter's biography as admitting that as Porter's star rose with Dolly attached, he did get difficult to deal with. They were close friends, and he couldn't even get him to do his radio show, saying maybe he thought he was too big for it. I know they were busy, but I could get Dolly. Porter was hard to deal with when he hit the top. And he also said, I think he was a very hard-driving man about their careers. I think there were no committees. Porter ruled until the day Dolly felt that Dolly felt like she could have more creative control of her career, which is what everybody was seeing. Like, this is not going to end well. And it was every statement that I read was everybody telling Porter, like, you cannot continue what you're doing. This is not going to end well, and it's all going to be your fault. Is pretty much what everybody was saying to him.
So there's two things happening here.
Mm-hmm.
He very obviously, like we're talking about, wants to control her and control every aspect of her life, and he's just using her for the money.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you just said that, and why would anybody try to make a point to someone that walks out of the house wearing a rhinestone suit? You're not going to get logic through to this person. It's just a waste of your time and energy.
They have
if someone is willing to walk out of their
shield.
house in a rhinestone suit every day of their life, you cannot possibly tell them, hey, this is what you're doing right now isn't a good idea, because nothing's going to be a worse idea than leaving the house in a rhinestone suit.
Looking in the mirror, combing up his hair. You look good, Porter. You look real good. That is a very good point that I did not think of.
Why even try?
People tried. They were trying to help Dolly out. They felt bad for her, as they should. I don't know. All right. So not only does he have all of this controlling stuff, but he also likes to give the impression that he basically not only discovered Dolly Parton, but he made her everything that she had become, saying, it was difficult to keep Dolly in an area where I knew what was going on. This required, quote unquote, complete control, which is why Dolly was successful from the very start. Almost despite herself, because you would not believe, there would be no way of explaining the frustration that happened. If I hadn't been a strong-willed person, Dolly would have led me off on a dark, dingy road. Give me a break.
Hate to say it, Porter, but you're walking down a dark, dingy road yourself.
Yes. Yes, he was.
Project much?
I know. So insane. And then he described how when he wanted Dolly to do a song that no other woman, or in his words, girl, he always called is a girl singer. They're never women. They're always girls. Oh, I can't. That is one of my biggest pet peeves. I cannot stand it. If somebody calls me girl, I get so irritated.
What if someone came up to us that we didn't know and was like, hey, this is my girl, Kate?
That's different. I'm talking about a man condescendingly calling me girl.
Listen here, girl.
Yeah, there, right there.
What do you hate worse, girl or broad?
Girl. Because at least broad is like an older person. I just can't stand it. So he always called them girl. So he wanted her to sing this song that no other girl singer would sing. And he insisted, his side of the story is that he talked Dolly into this. Supposedly she cried about it, carried on, and then finally he's like, no, you need to record this because people are going to be so eager to see that girl singer who sang, and the name of the song is Mule Skinner Blues, which I did look it up and listened to it. And it is like a very, like, that song reminds me of, like, it had to have been on Hee Haw. I was like, oh, this is on Hee Haw. And she does do a really good job because there's like notes and stuff in it that are hard to hit. And she does a really good job singing it. I mean, she like nailed it out of the park. So Dolly is told what he said in this. So they had this whole lawsuit that came about because he ends up suing her. And we're going to talk about it a little bit later. But Dolly is told in this deposition in 1979 what he said about this song. And Dolly's response was, I didn't want it to be released. Are you serious? No, sir. That I didn't want it released? Like, she could not get over that he is sitting here telling this version of the story. When, if you hear her in it, you'll have to listen to the song. Like, I'll have you listen to it. If you're not happy that you are having to sing and record a song, you're not going to do as good as she did in this song. You're just not. Like,
you gotta have passion and feel it.
Yes, and you can totally tell that she is into this song when she is singing it. Like, she had no problem singing this song. So who knows where he comes up with this stuff. So he always portrayed Dolly as this poor, witless girl that needed his help every step of the way. So in one of the articles I was reading, he describes how, because again, he's trying to make it like, oh, she wouldn't be where she is if it wasn't for me. So he describes how he went through a bunch of microphones to find the right one for Dolly. And the reason he had to do this is because her voice was so shrill. Like, that's how he describes this woman who is his partner. Her voice is so shrill. But, once I found the right one that made her voice sound good, I made sure to mark that microphone for her. So they always knew to use that one for her when we went in to record. Oh, thank you, Porter, since her voice is so shrill.
Do you think he mansplained the whole time he was marking it? Now what I'm doing is I'm taking this marker, which... we take the cap off and it marks things. I'm going to go over to this microphone, this thing that you sing into right here that projects your voice, and I'm going to put a mark on it with this marker. It's going to be black.
This marker is a permanent marker. Do you know what permanent means? It'll always be there. Do you see how much work I do for you, Dolly?
It's exhausting explaining it all to you because you're just a girl.
You're just a girl singer. I'm not sure if you even understand this. So annoying. So... both of them have very different versions as to how a contract for Dolly to be on the Porter Wagoner show even came about. And in this whole thing, Dolly did have a very good point that she never had a lawyer even look at the contract before she signed it. So here she is, a young woman trying to make her start in country music world. And it appears, obviously, that she trusted Porter to look out for her. Like, she was trusting him to do what he said. And he, at the very least, should have gotten a lawyer involved to protect both of them, not just her, but him as well. So there's items that were added to the contract and witnessed by one person, but the contract itself was not written up by a lawyer. So there's so many crazy loopholes in the whole contract. Like, there was a couple things that I was going to read, like, about what he wanted, but it was so confusing. It made no sense how he wrote it that I was like, I'm not even going to try to explain this. If people want, they can read it. It's in his biography and it's in a couple of the things that she's written. But it's pretty funny. It's a pretty funny read where you're just like, what are you trying to do here, buddy? Basically, it was like, you're indebted to me forever. That's what the contract was pretty much trying to say, which no, that's not going to work.
If you're going to mark a microphone for someone, it's basically like marking them and saying, yeah, you're mine.
Yeah. Oh, like my whole life or your whole life is my whole life now.
Remember that time when we were dating and we were out and we were looking at microphones at the microphone store and I had a marker.
Like we always tended to do.
And I pulled it out and I put just a slash on the microphone with the marker that I had in my pocket and I was like, you're mine.
I don't remember that. That would have been a fantastic story to tell people at our wedding though. To not weird everyone out or anything. So anyway, during this deposition for this lawsuit that he brought against her, Dolly was asked about all the gifts that Porter had so generously given her. But I thought that was weird to ask because, as Dolly pointed out, while she preferred him to not buy her gifts, they were gifts, and Porter was not the type of person to take no for an answer. Bottom line is, Porter knew that Dolly was going to be a star and he wanted to get as much money out of her as he could. Dolly said that really isn't fair because she did as much for Porter with his career as he did for hers. Their partnership was mutually beneficial, which is absolutely 100% true.
It feels like it's very one-sided, though. I mean, yeah, he had some connections, but...
She definitely made his star, like, rise. Having her there. She's just a born star.
She used him?
I think that she was using the Porter Wagoner show like we talked about as a springboard, but she made it very clear that that was not where she wanted to stay. She did not always want to be on the Porter Wagoner
show. He was very obvious. He said, I'm using you.
Yeah.
So that's why I say it feels like it was
both ways. That's why
both
she was
ways.
saying it's mutually their relationship was mutually beneficial. As a lot of people that work together in Hollywood know, we're mutually benefiting each other by having this partnership. That's just the way that it goes. We actually talk a little bit more about it, though. So another thing that both Dolly and Porter talked about openly was Porter's hot temper, with Porter admitting in an interview in 1971, "I've got an awful temper. I guess I've got one of the worst tempers a person could have. If something really gets to me, it seems like it just tears me all to pieces. I've always been that way ever since I was a kid, and I know that's not good." He also said he let things bother him when they shouldn't, and that he could be moody around the band when he knew he shouldn't. So on top of all of this stuff, he also has a crazy temper that she has to deal with, which no wonder they were arguing all of the time. Because somebody like Dolly Parton, who is going to stick up for herself, is not going to let you yell at her. Like, that is just not going to happen. So another huge contention between the two of them seems to have been Dolly wanting to break into pop music. She wanted to try it to see if she could do it while she still had country music to fall back on in case that venture failed, which I say that is a very logical thing to do. I know I can make it in country. I've already made it in country. I'm going to try this. So you will not believe this, but Porter could not understand how or why she would. And the wording of what I am about to say that he uses is very important here. He says, quote, "Why would you leave somebody that's already with you and then fall back on them if you can't make it?" She did not say, "I know I can make it with Porter, so that's why I'm going to try pop music." She said, "I know I can make it in country music." And he, of course, takes this, her wanting to branch out into a different musical style, as, oh, this is about me.
Because he invented country music.
He did. He not only invented country music, but also Dolly. So he becomes more and more controlling of Dolly and him the more popular they get together. And it's not just with her, but with literally every aspect of the business that they're in and that they're doing. He upset many people with that, not just Dolly, and had many people warn him that him trying to hold on to Dolly the way he was just going to end in disaster. His view of it was, though, that Dolly was an employee and should listen to him, her boss. And then Dolly, she's seeing it as, I'm not just an employee. I'm an independently contracted RCA recording artist, which is what she was.
So he just did not see things the right way, the realistic way.
No,
He was
all.
looking at everything through rhinestone eyes.
I feel like everywhere he went, he had the theme song Rhinestone Cowboy playing whenever he entered. Just a rhinestone cowboy. And that was his theme song.
I can see that song playing in the background while he's combing his hair.
Oh, yes. Like, whenever he can have that song playing, like he had it playing, he is like, yes, this is excellent. The song is all about me. So in an article from October 20th, 1974 in the Tennessean, Dolly told a reporter that she didn't want to talk about the split, but that she was happy to be on her own. She said, "I've always pretty well done things my own way as far as my personality is concerned, but now I want to do things more my way than I have in the past. I was proud to be part of the Porter Wagoner organization, but this gives me a chance to prove myself and carry on in my own way. This gives me a chance to do some things that I wouldn't have felt were fair for me to suggest in his show just because I felt they would be better for me." So she ended up parting ways. They were already headed this way. They were already headed towards splitting, as everyone else but Porter Wagoner could see. And that's what we're going to talk about, that song from The Bodyguard. This is where that song comes into play. And this is the story that my dad had told me. And when you know what it's actually about, it makes it even sadder. So she wrote this song for Porter and sang it to him in the hopes he would understand that it was time for her to move on. And now that you know, like, his whole life story, which you don't because you did not read his biography like I did, it makes it even sadder because we're looking back And we know how things went. When you will know how things went when we get done finished talk about this. So we're going to talk about this song. And I know you never hear lyrics in songs. You only hear the music. So I feel like you should know what the words of the song were that she sang to him. I'm going to sing it.
Are you going
to
sing it?
Yeah, I'm going to sing it just like, why am I blanking on her name? From The Bodyguard, the one who sang it. Who did an amazing...
Whitney Houston in The Bodyguard.
Why? Why was I blanking on Whitney Houston? I wanted to call her Winona Ryder. Two very different people.
Remember that 80s pop star Winona Ryder?
Anyway, she sang it amazing. She definitely like blew everyone away, including Dolly Parton with this song. How she sang it. No, I'm not going to sing it like Winona Ryder or Whitney Houston.
Sing it how Winona Ryder would sing it.
I don't know how she would sing it. I wish I could channel her enough to be able to, but I can't. Okay, so she said, so the song goes, if I should stay, well, I would only be in your way. And so I'll go, but I know I'll think of you each step of the way. And then it says, I will always love you. I will always love you. And then it says, bittersweet memories. That's all I'm taking with me. Goodbye. Please don't cry. We both know that I'm not what you need. And then she repeats the chorus. And then she says, I hope life treats you kind. And I hope that you have all that you have ever dreamed of. I wish you joy and happiness. But above all of this, I wish you love. Makes me want to cry right now. How are you not moved by that?
I didn't read the book.
It's not the book. It's just the words.
It's deep lyrics,
if
for
somebody
sure.
came to you and sang that song, you would be like, thanks, man. You probably would be.
It's deep lyrics. I mean, I was thinking
Thanks,
about
man.
the lyrics
That was
while
really
you were
nice.
singing and like thinking of the emotion behind the lyrics.
Wow. It's very sad. It's a very sad song. So they split professionally after this. Porter and Dolly still had adjoining offices and worked together on projects that they both felt were right, and they definitely were still friends. And this article talked a lot about how Wagoner was still very much a part of Dolly's life, producing much of her new work. So when she sang that song to him, he was like, yes, you can go, but I get to produce that song. He did cry, but that was the first thing he thinks of is, well, I'm producing that song. He said that was one of the best songs she's ever written.
Not bad for a girl.
Yeah, not bad for a girl and for somebody who he had to control stinking every single song that she wrote, trying to tell her how she should write it. Like she doesn't know what she's freaking doing. So many speak about how Porter was genuinely sad at the parting, though. There was an engineer that they worked with. His name was Roy Shockley. And he said, I remember on a Monday morning, he came in and said, Dolly has left me and I'm going to Center Hill Lake for fishing. And I know he stayed 6 weeks. Chet and Bob, I don't know who those people are. Chet and Bob was so concerned about it that Tom Pick and I went up. We thought Porter might go over the edge. And then another person likened their relationship to Heathcliff's and Catherine's in Wuthering Heights. And when I read that, I was like, oh my God, that describes them perfectly.
Your favorite book.
I love that book, and it describes their relationship perfectly because Catherine did not want what Heathcliff wanted, even though she loved him, and he tried to make her stay and was very broken up when he couldn't control it. Of course, Catherine went and just died so she could get away from everybody, but Dolly did not do that. Dolly did not die.
She's still with us.
She's
the
still
new,
with us.
I've said this before,
yes,
she's the new
Betty White. She absolutely 100% is. So it seems like Porter knew that this split was going to be the end of not just them working together, but like just being around each other all together. And that's exactly what ended up happening. Dolly fired Porter so that she could be on her own because obviously, even though they had parted ways, they were still working together. He was still being a little bit controlling. So that's where in 1976, Dolly continued to pay Porter 15% of her gross income on her RCA record royalty for the duration of the contract that Porter had negotiated for her. So that's what she had agreed to. But she was like, I'm done. Like, you're not part of my stuff because
15% is a small price to pay for freedom from someone like that.
Yes. Still a little high, I feel like, but whatever. She's a very giving person.
It just shows that she recognized what he did for her.
What she never denies, ever, in anything you read about with them. She never denies what he did for her. So right away, despite taking some time off because she had some nodes on her vocal cords, her solo endeavors received widespread recognition. She won the prestigious CMA Female Vocalist of the Year, or as Porter calls it, Girl Vocalist of the Year. She won that 2 years in a row in 1975 and 1976. And then Dolly wanted to branch out and do a pop crossover for a more mainstream push for her music that would also get her more visibility. And to help her with this, she did many interviews on talk shows and graced the cover of many a magazine, including Playboy, which is a very famous one. It was extremely popular, and even now, that cover still generates more attention from her fans and followers than any of the hundreds of covers she's been on. The article was also very candid, with Dolly sharing a lot of personal things about her childhood. And I just had to say that there's so many things she talks about growing up in a very backwoods place and being kind of like a wild child. Like some of the stuff she was talking about, I was like, yep, been there, done that. But even like some of the stories. Are you
comparing yourself to Dolly Parton right now?
As a backwood wild child? Absolutely. But I have some of the stories that she says, I'm like, nope. Have nothing in comparison with there. It was so crazy, and it was so funny. In one of her books that I read, she talks about how her family actually had a feud with another family, and she said it's a real Hatfield and McCoy feud. I was like, oh my God, she needs to listen to our episode.
Everything's full circle here.
It is full circle. It made me laugh when I read that.
It's the end of our podcast. Bye, everyone.
We've made it. So
7 degrees of Dolly Parton.
Yes. You can always get there. So she, in this Playboy interview, she repeats and elaborates a lot on that interview that I talked about from back in 1971, where she was saying that they were great together in so many ways, but also a disaster in so many other ways. So she says, we just got to where we argued and quarreled about personal things we had no business quarreling and arguing about. It was beginning to tarnish a really good relationship. And then in true Dolly Parton form, she placed the blame on both of them, saying they were just too much alike for a relationship to continue. She said, I'm sure he is bitter at this particular point. He is so strong-headed and bullheaded. He won't accept things sometimes the way they are. I won't either sometimes. We're kind of involved in some legal things. I'm trying to buy my part of the catalog back, where I'll have all my songs back together. Someday I hope we can be friends. We are no enemies. We just don't ever see each other. So my take on all of this is like, so in all of her interviews, she always described the lawsuit as her trying to buy her part of the catalog back. But really, it was not. She doesn't paint him in a bad light in it, but this was 100% him being a douchebag and trying to get more than he deserved. And we actually talk about a little farther down. So she doesn't say anything negative. Like I said, just the facts about it. And Porter was bitter about the split, even though he would say all the time he wasn't. So after the Playboy article comes out, he's interviewed in October 1978 by the Tennessean again. And the headline for this was, Porter's bitter remarks turned Dolly's happiest hour sour. And I actually found they have a drink. They have a drink named after this, which is really funny. It's
after the article?
After that article.
Why aren't we drinking it right now?
Well, because it's in Australia. I tried to email them to ask them to confirm, but there's no way. The name of the drink and stuff, I was like, no, it's so funny. You can look it up online. If you put in Porter's bitter remarks turned Dolly's happiest hour sour in Google, this drink will pop up and everybody can see it. It's pretty funny. So here is a quote that he says to show that he is not bitter, okay? Mm-hmm. Actually, I have two of them, and I want your...
I'm going to guess he is bitter.
I want your opinion on it, because it's really funny. I've done a couple of these
episodes, and I'm going to go out on a limb and say that he probably is
probably better. So he says Dolly wants to do everything that is possible for her to do, but she lives in a fairyland. I don't believe a country girl singer would do things in the manner she's done them, like the Playboy thing. Do you think Kitty Wells would do that?
Of course Kitty Wells wouldn't do that. Are you kidding me? Girl like her wouldn't do that.
You don't even know who Kitty Wells is.
Nope.
Well, it's funny that you say that because Dolly, who did not respond until 1991, so he put this out in 1978 and in 1991.
This better be a really good response.
No. But all she says is, it's in Vanity Fair. She says, I thought, well, I guess not. I don't think Playboy would want Kitty Wells on the cover, but it was that kind of mentality. Kitty Wells wouldn't do that. Loretta Lynn wouldn't do that. Well, I'm not Loretta Lynn. I'm not Kitty Wells.
She's Dolly freaking Parton.
Yeah, she's Dolly freaking Parton. Exactly. She can go on the cover of Playboy if she wants to. Porter. So here's another one where he's insisting that he is not petty. Or bitter, I mean. No, bitter, petty, same thing. So this is what he says. He says, no. She couldn't stay. I let her go. Dolly didn't quit. I gave her notice in Tulsa, Oklahoma, that she needed to get her own band together because I wasn't going to travel and have a girl that I had to fight with on the road with us. I'm not bitter because Dolly left my show in my sense, or in, wait, I don't know what I put here. In a sense, that's what it is. I was just disappointed to find out she's not made of what I thought she was. To me, Dolly Parton is the kind of person I would never trust with anything of mine. I mean, her family, her own blood, she would turn her back on to help herself. I'm not that kind of person. I don't care about talking about it because most people would think I'm bitter at Dolly. I'm not bitter at her at all.
Guy's got a lot to say.
For someone who doesn't want to talk about it, and he's not bitter at all.
It's always the way it goes, though. When you have a lot to say about something, you're going to claim, it doesn't bother me at all, but here's what I have to say. And then 5 minutes later, they're like,
but I'm
really?
not bitter at all.
You're not bitter.
Do you want to repeat anything you just said?
Do you want to hear back what you just said?
I don't even think then it would dawn on him. I mean, I couldn't even read what he was saying without laughing. So ridiculous. So not only is he obviously bitter, but he's also kind of greedy. And Dolly actually points out he waited until she was making a very large sum of money to drop his suit. He did this at a time he would have received quite a bit off of her if he had won. Like if he had wanted if he had won the lawsuit the way he wanted, which of course is way over the top. So do you want to hear what he demanded of her in this lawsuit? It's a lot.
Of course.
All right. So here we go. So Porter demanded 15% of her net income from June 1974 to June 1979, plus an additional 15% of their record royalties since her managers had cut him off after she had promised to continue paying him 15%, plus $2 million of lost income from Dolly's recording and touring, $1 million in lost producer and other income from Dolly. Porter also asked that the duet album and 10 duet single sides be released, that Dolly return those 130 songs that had been removed from their joint producing company. But of course, he does not mention in all of this that they were actually her songs. That's why she had 130 of the songs, because they were hers.
Is there anything in this lawsuit where she has to return the microphone that he marked?
I wish, but no. And that the producing company be shut down and its assets split between Dolly and Porter, 51% to Dolly and 49% to Porter.
So basically he just wants her out of business and
Yes!
just stop touring and just...
Yes. Not too many demands at all. He is not bitter
By the way, just
whatsoever.
stop touring. Just don't make any more songs. That's all I want.
Just don't be famous and don't do what I knew you were going to do, because if I can't benefit off of what you're doing, I don't want you to do it. Like,
if I were her, I would have been out on the road and I would have advertised every show as Dolly Parton from the Porter Wagoner show.
Well, as we've already ascertained, Dolly is just not a bitter person like that. She's not petty. She doesn't sink to those levels. She just doesn't. So they ended up settling out of court because, well, probably because the contract that was written between them was so convoluted, and it was in both their interests to just get the whole affair settled. Like, I think he must have had some lawyers that were just like, listen, buddy, you don't have a leg to stand on with this freaking contract that you're touting. It's like, what are you doing here? So he also talked about the enduring myth that Porter was just a hick who was holding Dolly back from moving to pop. So remember, she said he did not want her to move into pop, but his version of that, he says, that's bothered me more than any effing thing about the split between Dolly and me. Then he proceeded to say he thought it was a good idea and had said that he tried to get RCA to do that years ago with the right marketing for Dolly so that she would be successful. That is not the story that he told before, though. And it's not the story that she says. It's very ridiculous.
Delusional. Very
delusional. So she has a couple quotes that I just want to talk about because, again, we're looking back in time. So this one is from Chicago Sun Times in 1976. And she says, yes, I'm ambitious, but I hope I'm not hard. I don't want anything at anyone else's expense. If I ever get to the point where I really go off on an ego trip, I hope there's someone there to put me down. And then in the Boston Globe in 1977, she says, I have no fear of getting old. Getting old don't mean you can't be creative. I picture myself as an old woman still being very useful and writing things for people to enjoy. I imagine my whole life full of songs and poems and stories about real things and genuine people. Dolly Parton's A Mountain Gale, true and simple. I think that her young self from 1977 or 76 and 77 would be proud of her.
Mm-hmm.
She's turned into exactly what she wanted to be, which is nice. So I will say in the drunk history story, it makes it seem like Porter just blew his money left and right, mentioning he bought an orange grove in Texas. And he did. He absolutely spent his money on stuff that was probably a little bit frivolous. But the orange grove that he bought it thinking this was going to be an investment. Like, that's what he wanted. And they had a management company who was supposed to be taking care of it, but they completely mismanaged it. None of the money got there to take care of these trees. And they all ended up dying, and he lost all of his money from that whole investment.
And he somehow blamed Dolly Parton for it, probably.
Honestly, he probably was. I mean, some of his lawsuit, I think, kind of was just out of greed. I think this was after all of the settlement and stuff like that. But he also got hit with the IRS telling him that he owed them $489,000, which is insane. So here he is. He needs money. Like, he needs money fast. So he's selling all sorts of stuff. His lawyers are helping him. They're selling all sorts of stuff. And one of the things that he decides he's going to sell is a bunch of his songs, the catalogs of his songs. So Dolly actually comes in and she buys all of these from him at like a pretty high price.
Did he know she was buying them?
Yes. She made it very clear. I'm going to help you out. Here you go. I'm buying. It's actually in the drunk history thing. She's like, I'm buying these from you. I'm helping you out. And then years later, when he got back on his feet, which he did, he wanted to buy all of his songs back to her, and she just gave them to him. Here you go. I love you. So
that's exactly like the Seinfeld episode where Jay Peterman bought Kramer's jokes and then he just gave them back to him.
It is not at all.
Basically.
Well, maybe he called Dolly Parton a vagabond. Which I hope he did.
He probably did at some point.
But no, to show that she is the bigger person, that is what she did. He actually went and did a whole bunch on the Grand Ole Opry. He basically became like their unofficial spokesperson. So he got back on his feet. He was really good. They made up, obviously, because Dolly is a bigger person. I mean, she still did so much for him when he did not deserve her to do all of the stuff that she did for him. So they actually sang some duets together. They did a whole bunch of stuff together. When he was sick and pretty much everybody knew that they were going to die, like she sang this tribute to him. They were on stage. It was really pretty, like a whole pretty affair for the two of them. And then when he did die from cancer, she was actually there to help him, like when he was passing. She sang to him, and it was a whole sweet thing. So I said at the end, it becomes that Dolly is the bigger person, and she forgave the Heathcliff in her life that made what could have been a very big and ugly feud nothing.
I mean, she didn't really become the bigger person. She was the bigger person the entire time.
Through the whole thing. But, I mean, look at what he sues her for all that ridiculous stuff. And her response is, I'm going to settle with you. I think if she had gone to court, yes, maybe there was some stuff. I don't feel like she would have had to pay if she had fought it as much as she did. I mean, there was a lot. There's obviously way more to it. And when you read his book, you'll see how much stuff is in there. And she talks about it in some of her books too. But I don't know. It's incredible how
it carries over to the way that she is today, though,
yeah.
because she gives away money, and it shows you that money is not, having tons of money is not a big deal.
No.
You can still have a lot of money and still give away a lot of money,
yes,
and still be very well
have
off.
A lot of money, which is exactly like she stuck true to what she said back in those articles. Like, she wants to always be that person, and she's definitely that person.
Hear that, Elon Musk?
Well, actually, when I was reading this, I was thinking that, you know what? She probably is not anywhere close to as rich as like Elon Musk or Bezos.
I've got news for you. Nobody is.
But the reason is because she actually shares the wealth, and she still has plenty of money to live off of and be very happy. So they can suck it.
Yeah, they can.
So that is my story.
I know everything now about Porter Wagoner and Dolly Parton.
Not really. And it is funny. I do want to point out that he wrapped his life so much around Dolly Parton, thinking he was going to like bank off of her or whatever. His biography that I read, it was just as much a biography on Dolly Parton as it was about Porter Wagoner. I learned so much stuff in that biography about her as well. I'm just like, wait, is this a biography about him or her? This is so confusing because it's supposed to be just about him. It is a very long book. It's written by a gentleman named Steve Eng, and he is very thorough and detailed, but my God, it jumps all over the place. It was a lot for me to get the information that I needed, because not only was it a ridiculously thick book.
We have about 80 pounds of books back there about Dolly Parton and Porter Wagoner.
Hey, I like to have all my bases covered. I was having a really hard time finding articles that he was quoted in. And then I got this book. I went to like 3 different bookstores, a library. I went everywhere trying to find this book, and I finally found it on Thrift Books. Thank goodness for Thrift Books. They always have them. And when I got it, I was like, oh my God, this book is it's so thick. But I mean, it had all the information and then some. So it was an awesome book for info.
Thank you, Thrift Books.
Yeah. And
Everyone
Steve
should
Eng.
shop there.
They should. They have everything. I've never not been able to find a book on there that I need. So now we have to go to Petty Roundtable. I don't know what we're going to discuss because we've already determined that she's not very petty, but
She's not. I got a couple ideas.
all right, well, we'll go there and we'll discuss it.
All right. Bye. See you there.
Bye. All right, we are here at the Petty Roundtable, but before we came, I made you listen to that song, Dolly Parton's.
Before we do that, let's tell them what you had me do first.
Wait.
Where you had me take this whole table and bedazzle it just to get the effect.
I bought a bedazzler. I whipped it out and was like, come on, we got to bedazzle this table
And
first.
I bedazzled Porter's name into the table.
It looks great.
I think I've got a new t-shirt idea.
Oh my God.
We're going to have a nice Porter t-shirt out there available. It'll be
As we should.
Bedazzled.
It needs to be. It really needs to be.
But anyway, carry on.
No, so I had you listen to her version of I Will Always Love You.
Mm-hmm.
And while you were listening to it, you started laughing.
I did.
And I was like, why are you laughing? So I think you need to tell everybody because it's really funny because I totally forgot about this.
So there is a end scene on the end of a Simpsons episode with Mark Hamill, and Homer becomes his bodyguard and has to get him out of this Star Wars convention that they're at. And as they walk out the back door, there's a large crowd, and Mark Hamill looks at Homer and says, "You know what to do." So he picks him up in his arms, and "I Will Always Love You," Whitney Houston's version, starts playing, and he starts kicking people out of the way. Walks back and forth through the crowd.
It's a pretty funny scene.
And
so you got
every
to listen
time
to
I
that
think,
version.
and now, but I don't know why I hadn't thought about this, but I think it's when you told me to listen to Whitney Houston's version, I was like, no, I'm just going to watch this because I got two things in once. Because every time I hear Whitney Houston's version, that's the only thing. I don't even think of The Bodyguard. I think of that Simpsons scene now.
And it is a very funny scene.
So seek it out if you can. Maybe I'll link to it just so people can see it.
I made you also listen to that Mule Skinner song,
which she was incredible in. I think the very first comment on the one YouTube video that I watched was something about it being compared to some sort of a cup of coffee or something. I mean, it's a very lively song.
It is. It's a very lively song, very hee-haw.
I would listen to that song. I actually didn't mind it.
Well, I mean, she does an amazing job in it. I mean, she hits the notes spot on. She does really good in that. Not somebody who's forced to do the song.
Spot on, like you're a music expert and you have something you're comparing it to.
Yeah, other people who try to sing like that. Did you
listen to other people sing it?
I did not, but how many people are going to put out bad versions of them singing that song?
Do you hear a lot of the stuff that comes out? A lot of it is bad.
That's true. But it's a very good song.
So I will say the one thing that I thought of for Petty Roundtable Talk, sadly, has kind of already been done.
Aw.
So we talked about the song Rhinestone Cowboy.
Yes.
And Glenn Campbell sings that song. And again, I know that song from a scene in a movie, which I made you watch, the movie High School High, one of the movies I've seen because it's a stupid movie and I laugh at it.
It is.
And there's a scene in there where they go to the dance where John Lovitz brings a record and he says he has something nice that the kids will like to listen to, and the guy puts it on the record player and everyone stops and looks, and then he just starts scratching it and everyone starts dancing again. So anyway, so I was like, okay, Glenn Campbell sings that. He's around back then with them, country singer, so maybe he had something to do. And so sure enough, him and Dolly Parton are well known for singing a duet of Amazing Grace. I was like, all right, well, there's no way she's covered Rhinestone Cowboy because that, I mean, come on. Rhinestone with who she came with, Porter Wagoner.
Yeah.
And there's no correlation with that song with Porter Wagoner. I did look that up too. It was a long walk over here. We had a lot of time to burn while we were walking.
We did.
And it's like, okay, that would be a pretty petty thing for her to do, to like at his funeral or even when she, like in the middle of the lawsuit when that was going on, just sing Rhinestone Cowboy. And sure enough, she has her own version out, called it Rhinestone Cowgirl. So I guess if I was going to do anything to that, since she stole my idea already, is I would make it so that if she sang that anytime she sings it at the Grand Ole Opry, there has to be a picture of him in his Rhinestone Cowboy suits up in the background.
Oh, he's like a little picture show behind of him.
Just a little slideshow.
That would actually be really nice.
Would it?
Yes, I could see her doing that.
Would it? But
as like
would
a
it
tribute?
Be taken as a tribute, or would it be taken as what an idiot this guy was because he wore rhinestone suits all the time?
Yeah, it could be both. Check out these dumb rhinestone suits he wore. While I'm also being nice.
I had a really good idea, and once I saw that she had done it, it just kind of derailed my whole thought, and I lost it.
I'm sorry.
Everyone always steals my ideas.
They really do. Fun fact, when my stepfather would try to wake me up, he would blast Glenn Campbell, and that was one of the songs that he would always, like, I would always start with that song.
Hot take, who do you like better, Andy Williams or Glenn Campbell?
Glenn Campbell. Not Andy Williams.
I gotta go Andy Williams.
No, Glenn Campbell.
Moon River, it's not gonna compare to anything that Glenn Campbell can't touch Moon River.
How many Glenn Campbell songs do you know besides Rhinestone Cowboy?
He sang Amazing Grace. But Moon River, nothing can stand up to Moon River. Bam, second encore every time.
If you say so. Well, I will say I didn't even get to talk about the fact that I'm so glad that Porter Wagoner didn't hold Dolly Parton back, because I know you've never seen this movie, Steel Magnolias, but she was in that movie. It's one of my favorite movies, and I got all nostalgic while I was doing this research, and since I was laying around in bed and couldn't stinking do anything, I rewatched it. So good. Such a good movie.
I do know that you like that movie, but shockingly, I've never seen it.
Yeah. It's one of the movies that she was in. And I like to think that she went out and she did even more stuff just to show him, you can't hold this girl back. So I feel like from the petty, I feel like he got his comeuppance from it. I think karma bit him in the butt a lot. And
bit him hard.
It really did.
His
and
butt
then,
was bleeding by the time karma was done with him.
No, Rhinestone outfit helped him
Karma
out of
bit
this
right
one.
through all those rhinestones.
It really did.
Maybe that's why he always wore the rhinestone suit, to protect himself from karma, but after a while it just couldn't hold it back.
It gets its way through. And then I feel like she was so successful because she was the opposite of petty. And she handled it all very gracefully.
So
and
she was kind of, she got revenge. I don't want to say she was petty, but just the way that she acted definitely got him back. She was a bigger person, petty, maybe.
Mm-hmm. She was a bigger person, but I really don't think it was like in her thinking. Maybe we can look at it and be like,
if you look at the big picture,
yeah,
it is. But
you got him back. But at the same time, I really think she was just genuinely like, no, because that's just the kind of person she is.
Yeah.
That's why it was refreshing doing this and not having
Dolly's the new
a
Betty.
bunch
That's
of
another
people.
t-shirt.
Yes, she is the new Betty, and she should be the new Betty because she's amazing.
So every day, wake up, go on Twitter, see if Dolly Parton's died, just like people did with Betty White.
Well, she's only 76.
She's got another 24 years.
Yeah, she's got a while. And she's always happy, like how Betty White was always happy. She always has a funny, snarky comeback for people who are being
The only thing holding her
weird.
back is she was never on Golden Girls.
Maybe she needs to come up with her own version of Golden Girls, and it'll be all country, which I'm very proud of myself.
Which they should call Rhinestone Girls.
Oh my God. And they wear rhinestone suits.
I think I just came up with another one. Rhinestone Girls.
I hope she does this. But I was very proud of myself that I did not talk in a country accent, because it was very hard. Because I watched a lot of episodes.
You did once or
couple
twice
times.
when you were reading something. I don't know if that's just the way it was spelled
Yes,
out.
it's literally,
Okay.
it was quoted the way she said it. And so they were put like, and then the way that some of the people talk, they just, they talk very country. And so they say stuff. And so I was just having a quote. And so it was very hard for me not to, but I watched a lot of interviews with her and some of the stuff of them together too.
Mm-hmm.
And she has a very distinct way of talking, and I have it down pretty good. And I was like, God, I want to do it so bad, but I'm not going to.
Well, do you want to do our plugs for our places where people can see us in a Dolly Parton?
In a Dolly Parton?
Come on.
We're in a Dolly Parton? No, not in her voice. No, not going to do it. But I will let them know. Well, first, you just need to tell them about our website, because they can do everything there.
Let'sTalkPetty.com. That website?
Yeah, that one. Because you
good
can do
one.
so many things on
You
there.
can listen to our episodes. You can go to our merch store and buy t-shirts, stickers, coffee mugs, whatever you want.
Mm-hmm.
We have some pretty cool designs, I'm not going to lie.
I've bought some, like I always talk about.
Been a customer. You can leave a message for us on there. We've got a little microphone you can click.
You can rate us.
You can rate.
You
You
do
can even
everything on
forward
there.
it to people. You can forward the website to a friend and say, hey, listen to this awesome podcast,
Mm-hmm.
which is what will help our podcast grow. So please, please, please do that.
Yes. And then if you don't want to go to our website,
But you can find all these links on our website.
yes, you can.
But
can
if you
do,
hate websites,
for some reason, especially if they have the word petty in them, you can email us at letstalkpettypod@gmail.com.
hopefully you like email addresses with the word petty in it.
Just not websites.
People that listen to our podcast don't like going to websites with the word petty,
No.
but you write it out in an email.
They will. They don't mind that. And then Twitter at Petty Talk Pod. Facebook, Instagram, Let's Talk Petty Pod. And then we have our phone number, 904-446-8448.
But if you want to keep it simple, just go to our website because everything is there.
Everything is there. It's an amazing website. I love it.
I wouldn't go as far as amazing. It's pretty good.
Again, the difference with us. It's an amazing website.
It's okay.
So definitely check us out.
And listen again next week because I'm going to have an episode and it's going to be slightly different than normal because normally we do one person versus one person. And this is going to be one person versus a whole genre of people versus a whole...
Like it.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's a different concept.
And it's going to be amazing. It's like when I do the true crime, Petty.
It'll be okay.
Oh my God. All right. So we will see you next time.
We'll talk to you next time.
We'll see them. Don't ask me how.
I will not. Bye.
Thanks for listening. Please be sure and give our show a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. And be sure to follow and subscribe so you don't miss an episode.